much. If we could then look at the agenda, please. Firstly, item number 1 is apologies for absence. Do we have any, please, Richard?
Yes, Chair. Apologies from Angela Newey, Dawn Griffiths, Gareth Parry, Liz Duberly, Hazel McDowell and Helen Stace.
Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest at this point, please? Otherwise, we'll take them as and when. I can't see any. Thank you very much. Right, if I can welcome you all to this meeting this afternoon. Thank you for coming, attending. But first of all, I want to just make a short announcement. For those who don't know, David Dovey passed away last month. He was an enthusiastic and loyal member of this committee, a real gentleman, always with time to talk and always interested in issues relating to the Wye Valley and its special designation. Can I therefore ask for a few moments to remember David and for Stephanie, his wife? Thank you. Thank you, members. Thank you for that. Next, can I welcome Councillor Rita Edwards, who is representing One Voice Wales on this committee. I'm not sure if she's here yet. Rita, are you there? Perhaps she hasn't logged in yet. I'm sure she will as soon as she can. Item number 4 now is to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting. If I can take them page by page, please. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Can I have a recommendation that I sign those minutes at some stage, please, as being a correct record of the meeting held on the 2nd of November?
I'm happy to propose that, Chairman.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Chris. Any dissents in those minutes? Thank you very much. I'll sign them whenever it's possible. Thank you very much. If we move on to public question time, Andrew, do we have any questions or anybody here from the public who wishes to speak?
I'm not aware of any. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, members, we move on to agenda item 6, which is Wye water quality. Wye water quality. I'm sure you've all seen a copy of this report, which Andrew has put together. Andrew, would you like to take us through, and then we'll come on to any questions at the end of that? Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yes, you may remember we've asked over several periods. They requested a presentation from Natural Resources Wales and the Environment Agency on the issue of phosphate levels and the algal blooms in the Wye, and unfortunately, once again, at this time of year, it's particularly hard for both organisations with various flooding incidents and also staff being deferred to onto the vaccination programmes and things like that. So they weren't able to offer anyone to come today, but they have promised that they'll be able to do a presentation on the 5th of July. So in the absence of that, I've put together a brief paper outlining the current situation, and it's particularly pertinent that the context that Natural Resources Wales, NRW, over the winter refreshed or reviewed the situation across Wales, and confirmed that more than 60% of the Welsh Y is now failing phosphate levels, and so have been in contact with Brecon Beacons National Park Authority and Monmouthshire County Council over the implications for that, and also the Usk is similarly affected. For the Y, the Nutrient Management Board is the main body, which is hosted by Herefordshire Council, that looks at the nutrient management plan, which was first published in 2014, and the overall management coordination of the mitigation of the phosphate levels, and I believe Monmouthshire and Gloucestershire county councils and Forest of Dean District Council have all been invited on to the Y Nutrient Management Board now. There are practical measures that various organisations, including ourselves, are taking, working closely, particularly with the Y and Usk Foundation and with NRW, and I just highlight a couple of those projects or initiatives in the report. There's a Refocus research study, which is using the Y as one of the case studies, one of 3 in the country, and yeah, really fascinating academic research into the whole phosphate nutrient cycle in particularly in the food system, agricultural use, but within the catchment generally. Obviously, Welsh Water are doing a huge amount on their infrastructure and to try and reduce the amount of phosphates coming through the sewage and wastewater system. And the Y and Usk Foundation and the NFU, Farm Herefordshire, a whole range of partners are working with farmers and landowners in the catchment, including ourselves, with 2 seconded catchment advisors working in the AONB, and a number of projects that we're doing with natural flood management in some of the sub-catchments. And lastly, which we'll be coming on to later in the agenda, the Farming and Protected Landscapes programme, which was recently announced by DEFRA, we hope will be able to be used by farmers to further help mitigate the phosphate levels. So it's just a quick summary of a range of initiatives that are going on, but obviously we will await a full report or presentation from the Environment Agency and Natural Resources Wales in July at the next JAC meeting. So there's 2 recommendations, Chairman, to note the current situation and the activities of partners, and to welcome the EA and NRW offer of a talk at the next meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrew. We're at the very early stages, really, of all this, aren't we? There's a lot of work to be done, and we look forward to receiving the presentation on the 5th of July. Thank you for the work you've put into this so far, Andrew. Are there any members that wish to speak? Yes, Chris.
It's Richard Gething here. Can you hear and see me?
Yes, we can. Good. Wonderful, wonderful.
That's all.
You're looking good. You're looking really good. Thank you. Chris, you wanted to speak.
Thank you, Anne. I just wanted to ask a question on the amount of sewage discharge that is taking place into the Y. I know in England, the sewage discharge is grossly underreported by the Environment Agency. And furthermore, only 16% of the rivers in the country are in good condition. What I would like to ask is whether we are recording and monitoring the water quality as much and as frequently as we should be, and also whether it's worth pursuing registering parts of the Wye as of bathing water quality. So water quality needs to be, which would obviously support bathers, but would also support the aquatic fauna and flora, which we know are being compromised by the algal blooms. So my question really is around how can we do more to protect the Wye from damage?
Andrew.
I certainly don't have the answer on the sewerage discharges. I mean, I know that obviously a lot of rural properties are on cesspits or private treatment plants, not on main sewerage. So I can imagine, but I can't state definitively what that level is. But yes, I'm sure there's a high level of let's say Victorian plumbing in the catchment that may not reach modern standards. And in terms of the bathing water classification, I've certainly heard about this proposal in various rivers across the country that yes, it's an initiative that's been promoted, and yes, it would be something, I suppose, for the Environment Agency and certainly the Wye Navigation Advisory Committee as well to contemplate. So yes, there'd be a number of interests to be involved in taking that forward, but I certainly don't see why it shouldn't be something that could be contemplated.
Thank you. If I can take Yolande, please, from Herefordshire, and then I take Councillor Sid Phelps from Forest of Dean. Thank you, Yolande.
Thank you, Chair. Interestingly enough, on the 5th of March, there's going to be a motion on this subject discussed at full council and Herefordshire Council. So, and I think many of my colleagues in Herefordshire feel that the failure to protect the water quality in the Wye is deficiencies and like resourcing of statutory agencies such as the Environmental Agency. You know, their budgets have been slashed by the current government, and because I'm new to this, the Joint Advisory Committee, what's our position to actually state, you know, because if we really do want to do something, what can we do as a Joint Advisory Committee, if anything, or is that down to the individual councils to actually, you know, contact the MPs or write to central government? Or could I have advice, please? Because I am concerned that the budget's been slashed on the EA, and we are asking the EA to do, you know, the Environmental Agency to do much more.
I don't know, Chair, whether you want me to come in on that. I mean, essentially we are an advisory committee ourselves, so you know, all we can do is advise whoever, the local authorities or government, but that our advice is yeah, is just advice on how the AONB could or should be managed. The local authorities have their own powers and responsibilities towards the AONB, but we are the body that's set up to advise, but it is only advisory, so we have no sort of statutory tools or mechanisms or controls that we can exert beyond advising others how they should be respecting the AONB.
Thank you, Andrew. Right, Councillor Phelps from the Forest of Dean, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. I just want to say, like many councillors, I guess you've been lobbied hard on this. It is quite alarming, the photographs of the like pea super over the summer. These things are never necessarily as simple as they appear. I mean, for example, everybody blaming the chicken farms in Wales. You know, were it that simple. I must confess, in a former life, I was a pollution officer with the English EA, and I used to work in this field, so obviously I have an interest, and as such, as well as being lobbied, I have contacted the EA in Tewkesbury on this, and I've been trying to find out about this nutrient management board and the rest of it. So yes, I very much look forward to the talk or the presentation given by the EA on 5th of July. I'd like just confirmation that will be public, because I've got a few constituents that would be very interested in that. Also, if the chair can help, or anybody can help, you say that the Forestine District has been invited to join the Nutrient Management Board. I don't know anything about this yet. I don't think my colleague Chris does either. So maybe if we could have a contact, or we need to bottom that out, because obviously we will be taking that offer up. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Perhaps you could send that on to Councillor Phelps. Thank you. Councillor John Hardwick from Herefordshire, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Before I start, I just had an email from Councillor Barry Durkin giving his apologies. He's tied up with something. He will try and make the meeting, but it might be that he won't be able to join us.
Okay. Thank you.
With regards to Andrew's comments, with regards to the fact that we're just an advisory committee, fully respect that point, but it would probably be useful to sort of notify all the councils concerned that the committee is concerned with the pollution on the Wye. Any support such as that is obviously very worthwhile, but it's a long-standing issue with the water companies that they've got a lot legal ability then to discharge raw sewage into the rivers at certain times, and I think sort of greater legislation needs to be put on that, and obviously with the new basic payment schemes that will be coming into force with the farming fraternity, I think that there'll be quite a significant uptake on payments that will be forthcoming to actually green up the farming, as it were. So I think that can be seen as quite a positive aspect of the support that farmers will be getting within the future. But the full details of all that, everybody's in the dark about that at the moment. I think certainly farmers are, and very keen to learn the detail of the payment schemes that are being promoted.
Thank you, John. Thank you. If I can now bring in Mr. Colin Evers, who's the representative from Gloucestershire Association of Parish and Town Councils. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the problem, as I see it, is. I'm afraid we're
Chair, can I just come in here, please? If anyone has their microphone on and are not speaking, please could you switch the microphone off, as it does interfere with the speaker. Thank you.
Yeah, the problem, as I understand it, is. Sorry, I'm getting an awful lot of feedback.
Yes.
let's leave it there. Thank you very much.
Perhaps if you sign out completely and come back in brand new, shut down your computer and then come back into us, perhaps that might help. I'm not sure. I'm no expert on this.
Chair, with your permission, it's Chris McFarling. Sometimes when this happens, just unmuting and muting, or muting and unmuting again can solve it.
Oh, okay.
Right, I've unmuted and muted again.
Or
turning your video off.
Doing it.
Okay. If I can just bring Councillor Laura Jones in, who's an Assembly member for Monmouthshire as well, with her duties. Thank you, Laura. Welcome and good afternoon.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm a member of the Senedd for South Wales East, for those who don't know me, as well as County Councillor for Wisham. So yeah, I just wanted to, we had a debate last week on nitrate vulnerable zones. So just on the back of what that gentleman was just saying, on this side of the border, the government are well aware that the Usk and the River Wye obviously have the highest incidence of phosphate pollution, as we were just discussing. But now they've classed the whole of Wales, not just the bits that are bad. The whole of Wales is now a nitrate vulnerable zone. So obviously the farmers were a bit concerned about that, but you know, our rivers are in need, and they claim to be sending £13 million out to try and help farmers do that. So that will have some sort of impact on our river. Just wanted to update you on that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, do you want to come back in at all, please?
No, that's obviously very useful and good news. Thank you, Laura, for that. And as John said, we're all awaiting for what the new agri-environment scheme is going to be and what that's going to offer, because I think that there could be some good opportunities in that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. If I bring in Matthew now, Matthew Lewis, who's the Monmouthshire County Council. I'm not quite sure what your latest title is, Matthew. They keep changing all the time, but thank you very much. And then we'll try Colin again to see if he's remedied his problem. Thank you, Matthew.
You're on mute,
Matthew.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on what Councillor Jones has just said. As you'd have gathered from Andrew's report, now that NRW have declared that the Wye, along with, as Councillor Jones has said, most of the other rivers in fact, all of the other SAC rivers in Wales are failing, that puts us in the same position, which we haven't been in the past, as has been the case in Herefordshire for some time. So there's not a great deal to add to that at the moment, other than we are developing a process in order to look at planning applications on an individual basis. And there's some interim planning guidance, which I think Andrew's referenced in the report. I'll share in the chat a copy, a link to a web page that we've put on our website. It doesn't add a great deal to that, but what it does have on it is a plan that shows the catchment areas. So it's slightly different in the Monmouthshire part of and I guess in the Forest of Dean as well, because the target only extends to it does not extend to the tidal section of the river. So we're effectively talking about those parts of the AONB in Monmouthshire that drain into the non-tidal stretch above Bigswear. So you'll see that there's a link there to the catchment plan, which may be of interest to you as members.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you. Sorry, Yolande. Yeah, okay. Colin, do you want to have another try?
Yeah, I'll come in again.
That's okay.
Is that all right?
Good. It's good.
Excellent. I've solved it. Yeah, I'm still getting feedback, but never mind.
Carry on, and we can get the input.
Okay, well, I'll carry on. All I was going to say was that if we are going to get people to come in July to talk to us, I think what is important that if we're an advisory committee, we need to have evidence on which to base any advice. Now, at the moment, all we've got is a very limited amount of data, and in fact, no evidence from any of the agencies as to the sources from which this effort, and in particular the phosphates, are arising. Now, it won't be only phosphates, it'll be various other chemicals, and from that they should be able to get traces as to where those are originating. So by July, I would hope there's a lot more to feed to us.
Thank you for that. I mean, it's just that the state of the river, the colour, the taste, and the algae. No wild swimming for a while, please. Thank you.
Chairman, could I just ask that for the July meeting, it might be well worth inviting Councillor Alyssa Swinglehurst to join the meeting. Yes. She's chairman of the Nutrient Management Board, Herefordshire Council, so I think she would give useful input.
Thank you very much for that, John. Thank you. And I imagine that we can make the meeting available to the public, can't we, Andrew and Richard? Yes, not a problem with that.
Yes, Chair. If the committee are happy with that, I can arrange that. Thank
you very much. If we could then please move the recommendations, please, that Andrew has already listed to us. Thank you very much. If I could have a proposal, and thank you very much, Richard, and a seconder. Looking for a seconder, please. Thank you very much, Sid. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was an interesting discussion. Right, we'll move on to item 7, which is the AONB unit programme for 21-22. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, this is our annual work programme that we present each year in March, and there's the lengthy work programme attached, which obviously ties in with the AONB management plan. It's obviously, well, we've had an exceptional year this year, which has knocked some things about, and so I have done a sort of COVID risk assessment, sort of traffic lighting the implications of the actions in the work programme. And the further complication currently is that we haven't actually had our funding confirmed from Welsh Government and DEFRA on the level of budgets. We have had emails confirming that they're not going to not fund us, which is reassuring, but we haven't actually had our core grants from the two governments to confirm our exact level of funding. So we've put the work programme together based on a sort of standstill settlement, which we were certainly with the steering group we felt was the sort of reasonable, prudent thing to do. And we have a number of other external projects and funding streams that we will be anticipating running with anyway. So that gives us a core budget of just over 270,000, but we know with that those additional funding programs that we will be levering in over 780,000 into the AONB during next year. I've listed some of those main sort of the highlights of the work programme, but as I said, most of it, well, it's all focused on delivering the management plan, continuing the work with Why and Ask Foundation, and hopefully restarting the farming awards and continuing natural flood management work and green infrastructure work, and again the waiting for confirmation of what the Farming in Protected Landscapes programme is going to be like, because that is a further unknown at the moment, and continuing with the range of projects that we've been running over the last few years. So I will leave it at that. I'm happy to answer any questions now or at any time. Just get in touch with. Do feel free to get in touch with me. And obviously, I won't go through in any greater detail of the 10 pages of work programme unless anyone wants to hear it. Thank you, Chairman. Oh, Anne, you're on mute.
Colin, you've still got your hand showing. I don't know if you want to come in again or if it's an old hand. Anyone wish to make comments on all this work that Andrew has put together in presenting, giving us this report, which is a huge amount to get through, Andrew. Good luck. Yolande, yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, I'd like to second that. There's a lot to do, and under trying times too, with COVID and all the measures that that entails. So yeah, Andrew, I'm going to be a bit cheeky because at the 50th anniversary presentation last week, is there a possibility to add or to discuss or to consider, I'm going in less and less, about a dark skies project or policy? I know that I asked you the question last week, but it is something that my colleagues either side of me, that's Elizabeth Swinglehurst and William Wilding and others in the Golden Valley, are concerned about, you know, the rising light pollution problem that we have. And I would hope that maybe the project team would consider. I don't know what other people feel, other members sitting here today, but if we could consider a dark skies project, that'd be great.
Thank you. I agree. Thank you. Councillor Paul Simmons from Herefordshire. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. It's sort of really following along the theme of the significant amount of work in the plan that I seem to recall last year we talked about actually putting adding an estimate of the time required for each activity around a number of full-time equivalents, because my concern is that we've got 5 people and we might be asking them, setting out to do 10 people's work, and it's just about making sure A, our expectations are realistic, and then B, if something unexpected or an opportunity arises during the year, it's much easier to see which element of a project or which project could perhaps be deferred in order to free up some capacity to deliver the new thing. I think we did. I think we'd agreed we'd do that last time, but I know you've had a lot on your plate, Andrew.
Thank you for that, Paul. If we do consider that the Dark Skies project is going to be feasible, perhaps we might, in better times, visit the Brecon Beacons National Park, who have got quite a lot of experience in this issue, and that might be maybe good to have that in our pencil in our diaries at some stage. Andrew, thank you. Can I bring back Colin? Colin?
On this subject of dark sky, I don't know whether people know, but CPRE National has just finished conducting a dark skies observation. They do it every year if they can. And so between the 6th, I think it was the 6th of February and about the 15th of February, they asked everybody to look at Orion and see how many stars they could see in Orion. And now that report will be coming out later in the year. So I would think it would be quite a useful report to bear in mind if we're talking about a Wye Valley dark skies policy, because there will be some back to my evidence, there'll be some evidence there from observations taken in the area of just how dark the sky really is around Gloucestershire and Herefordshire and over the border. I can't say Monmouthshire because, of course, CPRE doesn't apply to Monmouthshire, but nevertheless, I hope somebody else is thinking of doing something similar over there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Chris, are you there? Chris McFarlane?
Yes, thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
I was going to add to the debate on light pollution that a number of my ward members or constituents have also remarked that there is an increasing amount of light pollution across the valley. That applies to both the English and Welsh side in the Forest of Dean, lower Wye. But their complaint, as it were, is basically on the disruption to bat foraging behaviour that occurs because of these confusing lights, and they want the planning approvals or the planning conditions to apply and to be enforced more rigidly, because obviously we are responsible for protecting our area, particularly the lesser horseshoe bats, which are, and we wouldn't like those populations to decline as a result of poor planning and lack of enforcement as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Right, Andrew, do you have any comments to make?
Yes, yeah, certainly. I mean, certainly, well, as I responded to Yolandi on last Wednesday, and I'll hasten to add that the talk that I gave is now available on the AONB YouTube channel, so I will circulate that link to everyone. So if you haven't had enough of my voice, you can listen to another hour and a half of it on YouTube. Yes, so in terms of dark skies, we've been, well, several of the Welsh AONBs and national parks have done a considerable amount of work, well, across England as well as Wales. A lot of other AONBs and national parks have done a lot more work on this than we have. And so we were discussing last week with the Welsh National Parks and AONBs on sort of spreading that knowledge and expertise and looking at what can be shared and rolled out, and guidance, and working with the light bulb manufacturers and the lighting sort of retailers and so on and so forth is a tricky but a good way to go. So yeah, that's one of the things we were looking at. So, and in the new management plan, we have got a small paragraph on light pollution, so that does, in a sense, that gives us more leverage when we're commenting on planning applications and things like that to include or justify comments on that, because I would certainly agree with Chris and others that yes, driving around at night there are more and more lights, either just badly, poorly positioned and poorly angled, or what just seem like outrageously unnecessary lighting of buildings. But it's as members probably know, it's a really tricky area in terms of planning, because if you haven't got it in the planning application or in the conditions and controls, there's very little that can be done. So it's providing the best information and the tools for people to make the best choices seems to be the best way forward. But so some, as Anne was saying, with the Brecon Beacons National Park, they've got a dark skies reserve for part of the area, and while it'd be lovely to go over and see it, probably would be difficult to go over and see it in the dark sky. But we can certainly look at options for a visit there at some point. Yes, and apologies to Paul for completely forgetting in the intervening 11 or 12 months that I was going to reframe the business plan. So yes, apologies for that. I will try and, well, I've made a note and I'll try and remember to look at my notes again next time. Thank you.
You're on mute, Anne.
Yolande, sorry, thank you.
That's okay, great. Yeah, just coming up on that, Andrew, I've been quite cheeky with some of the planning applications that come across my desk, even if it's for an extension or a porch. I keep raising because in Herefordshire Council, I know that the ecologists, you know, they're running, you know, they've got a backlog of reports to write. But because we are in the AONB, I've been asking, and I've actually asked the ecology team if we could have a mandatory list that could just be included for the AONB areas, like, you know, around external lighting and habitats. You know, it's because the other thing is about, it's all very well having hedgehog habitats, you know, hedgehog homes, but if you haven't got any highways or holes and fences, they're a bit trapped, so they're not going to get used. But that's something that I'm pursuing within Herefordshire Council at the moment, so I'll let you know what happens on that side, because on every application I see, I'm asking about external lighting, you know, so and the officers are very happy to listen and actually include that for me, which is great. So yeah.
Thank you, Yolande. That's good news. Thank you very much. There's some interesting comments in the chat bar from Matthew and others, if you want to refer to those members. Thank you. Well, we've been asked to endorse the AONB unit work programme for 2021 to 22. If there's no other comments, then can I have somebody to propose that, please? Thank you, Richard. Proposed by Richard and seconded by... Thank you, Colin. Thank you very much. I take it that everybody else is in favour of that. Thank you. Thank you very much. If we could move on then to item 8. Which is Art in the Landscape and the Wye Valley River Festival update. Again, over to you, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, at the previous meeting, we mentioned and attached a link to the Art in the Landscape strategy, which is being commissioned by the National Association for AONBs. So it is a national strategy primarily for England, but certainly looking to draw AONBs closer with outdoor arts. We have obviously been leading that to a certain extent with the Wye Valley River Festival, and Sarah Sawyer and my team has been sat on the steering group for the Art in the Landscape strategy. However, the National Association have asked each AONB partnership if they could formally endorse or adopt the Art in the Landscape strategy, and so therefore I've put that in as a recommendation that we do that. And the other sort of half of this paper is on we've just signed off the Arts Council England final claim for the Wye Valley River Festival 2020, and so that is sort of wrapped up and put to bed, and so I attached some of the evaluation that went into that claim, lots of impressive facts and figures of what we managed to salvage from obviously postponing the festival in May last year and managing to run it online in September. And we're now looking again, as we previously advised, at moving the River Festival towards a separate independent organisation And originally we looked at a charitable incorporated organisation, a CIO, but actually more recent advice has suggested that we should look at a CIC for so a community interest company instead, as that would be more flexible as a body to adopt the festival. We had previously endorsed. There were 5 tests in the business plan for the previous festival, and so I've attached those at the end in Appendix 2, just to remind us really of what we were looking at as sort of appropriate mechanisms, checks and balances in moving to a CIC. And I will obviously be coming back to the committee as proposals progress and as the sort of transfer takes place. But we hope to get this moving and ideally wrapped up this year in time for taking over the next festival, which technically should be next year. So we were obviously 6 months behind anyway by having postponed the festival, and normally under normal conditions we would have been well advanced in doing the research and development for the next festival by now. So there are all sorts of knock-on implications of timescales. But yeah, so we're working with the festival director Philippa Haynes and Desperate Men, the artistic directors to the festivals, and a number of people who've been previously involved in the festival who are interested in becoming trustees or directors of the CIC, and seeking advice from a number of other CICs and CIOs to help steer our path, and then we will be drawing up the necessary legalities with legal documents and everything to hopefully affect that. But as I said, we will keep you informed. So yes, so 2 recommendations, Chairman.
You've got it in front of you, members. There's no comments. It's to formally endorse the Art in the Landscape National Arts Strategy with the National Association for AONBs, and that we welcome and support the progress with establishing a possible community interest company to take forward the Wye Valley River Festival, taking account of the 5 tests previously endorsed in the Wye Valley River Festival Business Plan 19 to 24. Thank you. Can I have somebody that would propose that, please? Thank you. Thank you, Yolanda. Seconder. Thank you, Chris. And I'm sure members are happy with that recommendation. Thank you very much. If we could move on then, please, to item 9, which is the Glover Review and Farming in Protected Landscapes. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, as I mentioned previously, the Farming in Protected Landscapes programme was announced in the Agricultural Transition Plan in November, and the Glover Review had identified that AONBs and national parks should have a central role, a central place in the new Environment Land Management Scheme, the new post-Brexit agri-environment scheme. We're still waiting for the government's formal response on to the Glover Review, and but there is a lot of work going on behind the scenes on various aspects, and almost weekly we're asked to supply some extra bit of information to DEFRA on funding levels or activities in levels, and or thoughts on provisional kind of proposals and things. So it seems very fast moving and quite often shifting. You know, that it definitely is that the civil servants are are thinking and sort of playing around with ideas, and some of them are very exciting and some of them slightly unnerving. So we're steering the DEFRA as much as we can and giving them as good evidence as we can to make those decisions. So along with that, the National Association were given some money by DEFRA to run an advocacy programme for the countryside stewardship, the existing countryside stewardship scheme, and leading on to the environmental land management scheme. So we've been working with the NFU and the Herefordshire Rural Hub and Herefordshire Meadows and various organisations, landowning, working with landowners and farmers to promote those events and that advocacy work. Unfortunately, the first event workshop for farmers had to be cancelled or postponed because of sickness, and so we're waiting to hear whether a new event is going to be announced or whether there are the two subsequent events later this month. So that's probably all I need to say. I mean, the farming and protected landscapes, I've copied what exists to everyone's best knowledge at the moment publicly, which is in the appendix is the extract from the Agricultural Transition Plan. There's some very tantalising phrases in there saying that it will be delivered by the or through the protected landscape body, but we, as I said earlier, we don't have any indication yet of what that means for us as an AONB team, and we've certainly been stressing, going back to what we were previously saying about the work programme, that this can just be added as another job for the existing team. We would need a whole new staffing and admin support resources to be able to run a scheme like this, and there's obviously a lot of reputational risk both for us and DEFRA and the other organisations working with the farming community on how this may be managed and what this means for the farmers. So yeah, interesting times, I suppose, and we're waiting to hear. But we understood initially that this programme was supposed to be going live in April, so we have four weeks or something, and no idea of what how we're running it or what it is we're running, which is a little bit frustrating. But I think everything at the moment is a bit like that in terms of farming and in the environmental land management scheme. So it's just for information that is where we're at, but happy to take any questions if there are any, Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. Are there any questions or comments? But otherwise, this is a paper for information. Thank you. Thank you, members. If we move on then to item 10, which is the review of designated landscapes in Wales. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
So it's always has been interesting, and I've tried to keep you up to date on the the review of designated landscapes in Wales compared to the review of designated landscapes in England, and certainly on the Welsh side, which obviously started the review 2 or 3 years ahead of England. I suppose I could say this is starting to reap rewards now, that Welsh Government are definitely trying their hardest to increase the resources to AONBs and national parks. It is still on a sort of year-by-year basis, which does can make sort of long-term strategic planning more difficult, but certainly couldn't fault the intention of channeling resources to us. So, and we now also have set up a National Designated Landscapes Partnership between the National Parks and AONBs, and with Welsh Government and Natural Resources Wales and the National Association for AONBs. That formalises previous sort of informal working groups and partnerships that we had, but it is formally constituted now and formally recognised by Welsh Government, so that's good. And the Sustainable Landscapes, Sustainable Places, which is effectively capital funding, a second year of that has been launched, and they've also given us some revenue funding for next financial year as well. So, like I said, it's a good boost to our capacity and resources on the Welsh side. So yes, I'm happy to answer any questions, Chair. Again, this is for information at this stage.
Thank you, Chris. I believe you'd like to come in. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Anne. My question is really, how does the designated landscapes system integrate with the nature recovery network plans? Because they're both at a strategic level, obviously, and it is worth noting that that the nature recovery network plans should begin to be integrated into the local plans for every district or for every authority, that's every planning authority as well. And I'm just wondering how, if you're designating landscapes, remember these are large areas of land, obviously, which include large habitats, and they do need connecting, as the Lawson report pointed out, that, you know, bigger, better and better connected. And I just wonder whether we are making those links and including the nature recovery networks in the strategy. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you, Chris. Andrew.
Yes, very good question. In the Colchester Declaration, which was the declaration for nature that the National Association and all AONBs adopted last year, came out of the 2019 AONB conference. We all agreed to produce our own nature recovery plans, well, by last year, which we didn't do. But every AONB is working on a nature recovery plan. And what we're doing in the Wye Valley is, as I'm sure you're aware, Chris, Gloucestershire Wildlife Trust have done a very impressive nature recovery mapping exercise, and we've agreed with Herefordshire Wildlife Trust and part funded by Natural England to roll that out into Herefordshire. So the and actually Worcestershire are also adopting the same methodology. So for ourselves and the Malvern Hills AONB, we will have effectively complete coverage, and because they do a 3-kilometre buffer around the county when they're doing that, that means that virtually most of the Monmouthshire part of the AONB will be covered anyway, and so we're ensuring that the whole of the Monmouthshire part of the AONB will be included. So we will have our own nature recovery map that will be consistent with Gloucestershire and with Herefordshire mapping. And we're in talks on the Welsh side and similar initiatives basically to for national parks and AONBs to do some nature recovery mapping. And we're saying, well, we now have our adopted methodology, and we'll be pursuing that. But we'll also be working closely with Monmouthshire County Council on mapping that they adopt. And but yes, so we have our baseline mapping, which should be ready in the next month or two. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Sorry, Anne, can I come back on that one?
Of course you can, yes.
Please.
Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, and ever so many apologies for landing you with that difficult question. As we all know, nature recognises no national or authority boundaries, and so my question was really aimed at making sure, one, that we integrate the whole of the Valley AONB as part of a nature recovery network, because it applies to the Welsh side as much as the English side. And of course, and the other one is really to develop a sense of urgency. I think that this we're witnessing the collapse of ecosystems worldwide and nationally as well. And I just feel that a sense of urgency is very, very much needed at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Adam. Adam Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come back on that. So Adam Taylor, Chief Exec of Gwent Wildlife Trust. So just to feed in on that, we are working with Gloucestershire Wildlife Trust, who was my former employer before I jumped the river, to develop the nature recovery network. So we're using a very similar system, obviously with a few Welsh tweaks. But the main strand of our strategy, which is starting in April and is a 9-year strategy, is nature recovery. So we'll be working together and trying to make the best of it for both sides of the AONB, regardless of borders.
Thank you. That's good news. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Anybody else wishing to come in here? Thank you. Well, this paper again is for, oh yes, Colin, sorry. Colin.
All I was going to add was a nature recovery strategy is not something for today. It's something for the future. It's something for the next 50 years. It's something for the next 100 years. And in none of what I've seen so far does anybody appear to be paying due cognizance to the impact of climate change, which is on us already and is going to continue throughout the whole of this century. The world, in terms of just our neck of the woods, in terms of flood levels, is going to be quite different from what it is as we see it today. I mean, there's been a recent report out about where I think I can't remember, it's climatologists brought out a large report about where the world will be in 2050. And if you drill down and look at our neck of the woods, it's going to be quite different from as it is now.
Thank you. Adam, you wanted to come back in.
I'm very sorry. Said nothing and they can't shut me up. Yeah, just to come back on Colin's point, it's almost like I prompted him. The second strand and the only other strand of our strategy is natural solutions to climate change. So at Gwent Wildlife Trust, we're basically looking at how we can engineer the landscape using natural solutions such as peatland restoration, tree planting, etc., so that we can alleviate flooding, mitigate the worst of the carbon emissions, and hopefully try and make greener places for people to enjoy their health and well-being for years to come. But I do agree, Colin, we're trying to make the landscape more resilient for the species that are here, not only the humans, but all of the others as well, by trying to make sure that we have these north-south corridors, but also that we're going uphill, so to speak.
Thank you. If there's no other people wishing to speak, I'll move on then to, oh yes, sorry. Somebody else want to come in? Was that Adam again? No, taking his hand down. Thank you very much. We'll move on then to item 11, please. This is the SDF Fund and Herefordshire Community Foundation Wye Valley AONB Fund. Thank you, Andrew.
Yes, this is just again sort of standing item update on where we are with the SDF and the Herefordshire Community Foundation Wye Valley AONB Fund, and we're still under allocated, underspent on the SDF, but we have actually been working hard over the winter on drawing up or nurturing projects that we had hoped to have got to the panels by now, but we're actually intending to hold a panel meeting hopefully next week. So we've got 4 applications lined up which are focused on getting full allocation. Following on from the previous item about the Welsh Government effectiveness at channeling funds at us, they've confirmed as well the allocation again next year of 100,000 of SDF. So apologies to the English side, but if you're in Wales, then do come forward with project proposals. And on the English side, well, the Wye Valley AONB Fund covers the whole of the AONB, but we're obviously targeting it more on the English side as we haven't got the SDF on that side. So we're working our way through the immediate impact funding. Was originally £10,000, and meanwhile the endowment fund is growing modestly, now standing at just under 55,000. So yes, we look forward to any project proposals for either of those for those 2 funds for next financial year. And I attached the table of existing allocations to the SDF just for information. Yes, there have been a couple of modest grants of the Herefordshire Community Foundation AONB Fund for predominantly hedge planting or hedge management schemes up around Fanhope recently. So yes, any questions or any proposals, project proposals, as I said, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Thank you.
This paper is for information. I don't know if there are any comments on that, but thank you, Andrew, again. Thank you for that. The National Association of the AONB, the National Association of National Parks, update, please, Andrew, for information again.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. You've made a Freudian slip. We're not quite a national park yet.
I'm sorry.
Yes, again, standing item just to inform you of what's going on nationally, and the annual report for the previous financial year has now been published, and there's a good case study on the Wye Valley AONB and the Lower Wye Valley Catchment Project that you may remember visiting on the JOC tour in 2019. So that's available. There's a chairperson's conference with the national parks coming up later this month, which is intended to focus on the Farming and Protected Landscapes programme. And the national conference is has been announced that it will be held in July. It will be an online affair, but it will still be hosted in Devon or by the Devon AONBs. So we'll look forward to how we get a sense of Devon from sat in our respective rooms.
Look out for your scones and cream in the post, I think.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's a good one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, a little bit on the nature recovery work, as we've just been discussing. And some of you will have met Howard Davis, and of course Ashley, I know, was involved in his recruitment when Ashley was chairman of the National Association 10 or 11 years ago. Howard is now stepping down, and in fact, I think today is the closing date for applications for his job. Yes, very very sad in a sense. I mean, Howard has done a fantastic job as chief exec of the National Association, and will be sorely missed, or will be very big shoes to fill. But we obviously look forward to successful recruitment of his replacement, which will presumably start later in the year. I think Howard is planning a reasonable handover period. So I will keep you informed of how that goes, and I'm sure we'll all look forward to meeting the new chief executive and helping take AONBs forward for another 10 years or so.
Thank you.
Yes, general update there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And the next item, item 13, is a general update again, and I think you're going to include in that update Forestry England and something to do with I think there's some road closures about in the Wye Valley, Andrew, which you might like to comment on, and byways, highways and byways. Thank you.
Yes, so I usually just put partners' reports as integral with our own sort of general update report, but yes, so there's a report from Forestry England, just a sort of general update on some of their activities in the area, but also the fact that the Biblins Bridge has been shut for repairs and maintenance. It's also worth noting probably that the footpath on the English side, just downstream from Biblins, it's actually well, there's two landslips now on the riverbank down there. So one was round the corner from Wirestone Leys downstream. There was a landslip there just before Christmas, I think, and there's a second stretch just past the end of the Biblins campsite. It's about 15-metre section of bank is slowly sliding into the river, and absolutely down the middle of the path there's a big crack. So slightly concerning, but anyway, the Biblins Bridge will be finished repairs and maintenance shortly, and that will be reopening. So yes, so there's major or significant diversions for the Wye Valley Walk at the moment, which used to go along that section around by Wirestone. So that's Wye Valley Walk is now diverted on the Peregrine Path all the way down to Monmouth. National Forest Wales, just mentioned that as that was announced since the last meeting, that the parts of the Wye Valley woodlands are included in the National Forest for Wales. So we're awaiting with interest to see what that means, but certainly what we all knew anyway was that the Wye Valley woodlands are some of the best woodlands in Wales, and we'll look to work with NRW on how best to help them take that forward and connecting up and around that woodland. And then on to Gloucestershire County Council Wireworks Bridge. They're just starting the preliminary works of investigating the how to repair or refurbish the Wireworks Bridge. So as you, members may remember, a few years back we had a big push on trying to get the Lidbrook Railway Bridge repaired and refurbished, and we've sort of got halfway there. But I hope or assume this means that Gloucestershire County Council are reasonably content with the condition of Lidbrook Bridge, and so can turn their attentions to the Wireworks Bridge. And it's a case of spinning plates really between Redbrook Bridge, Lidbrook Bridge, and the Wireworks Bridge. So it's good to see the attention switching to the Wireworks Bridge.
While you're talking about the Wireworks Bridge, there's been a lot of filming going on again there. Netflix have been filming for another sex education film, and it's been renamed the Sex Education Bridge locally. Sorry, members, sorry, but I had to bring that in.
Yeah. Oh, well, maybe they won't be able to repaint it because it'll have been immortalized on television now. Then, but yeah, I think the plan is for a full sort of repairing of the deck and repainting of the bridge in the next year or two. So anyway, we will keep everyone informed on that. Sort of coincidental with that, the Wye Valley Greenway is the cycleway initiative that's coming up the railway line from effectively the National Diving Centre and through Tiddenham Tunnel, and I believe that's going to be opening in April. Fairly low-key opening, but that will be coming into Tintern over the Wireworks Bridge. So yes, I'm going to be hosting a meeting on Wednesday about that with various well, the Tintern Community Council and various business interests in Tintern. So we'll keep members informed as well on that. And yes, currently there are a number of road closures down the valley to make repairs or ongoing maintenance of bits of road where there are landslips, both well, south of Redbrook and south of Tintern. So for those of you that regularly have to go up and down that stretch of the valley, I'm sure it's very inconvenient, but as John will also be suffering the continued road closure just north of Foundhope, and yes, and that's still, I think, still supposed to be being finished shortly, but I'm not quite sure on the timescales on that either. So if you wanted to go the length of the Wye Valley at the moment, you'll be frustrated at in several places with road closures and repairs and maintenance work.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, Andrew, I think that the Foundhope Road is due to reopen for Easter, but there's another lot of works that are needed at How Capel, which means the road may be reclosed for 6 weeks on the 1st of May. But that's all up for discussion at the moment.
And we've been informed that the subsidence at Redbrook will be finished by the 31st of March, John, in order that we can go ahead with the Wye Valley closure on the 6th of April, full closure just past Tinton on the A466 for 4 weeks, and 2 weeks after that on traffic lights, I think. Thank you, Andrew.
Could I have a word? Hello?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Yes, sorry. Yes,
Thanks so
Ashley.
much,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned the Wybricks Bridge and so on. And, at last, something is happening that may well soon link up Chepstow with Tinton, because that's always been available. The permits and everything else were all there for the development of that walk, if you like, and cycling thing. So it looks as if that section is now being looked at in its entirety and may well be opened, which would be great. Am I right, Andrew?
Thank you, Ashley.
Yes, yeah, no, that's right. It's obviously been a long-running idea or proposal to open up cycleway up the valley. So this is, well, I suppose you could say the Town Country Trail in Ross was the first phase, and the Peregrine Path was the second phase, and this will be the third phase in a sense. But I think it will have a significant, profound, and beneficial impact on Tinton. And will certainly change the whole dynamics of the tourism in the area.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm quite excited about it, but yeah, thank you, Ashley. Glad to hear you're still there. I was going to make sure you were there, but you are. That's really good. Thank you.
Right.
This paper is for noting, again, for information. So we'll move on to item 14, which is the AONB unit report, please, Andrew.
Yeah, just very briefly, I mean, it is our 50th anniversary year now since the Wye Valley was designated. And yes, I gave the talk last Wednesday, which, as I said, I will send out the link to to that talk. And we're looking at a program through the year, obviously constantly trying to tweak it to second guess what the easing of lockdown will allow, but what we're focusing on at the moment are a number of social media takeovers by various people. So Ruth Waycott, our information officer, is working with a steady stream of people to take over our social media. So do look out on Twitter or Facebook if you can to see who's in charge of our social media which week. Then yes, going back to the nature recovery plan, we've been working with local experts and the wildlife trusts on looking at various species, sort of key species or assemblages, to focus some work and some sort of PR on as well. And so we've focused on 5 sort of key species or key assemblages which link to the special qualities of the AONB, but also that we feel we'll be able to have some influence or coordinate effort on. So listed those, the woodland butterfly assemblages on the river, the water crowfoot, grasslands on bumblebee assemblages, and the orchard and veteran trees and noble chafer beetle. And I know Yolanda is gone now, but hedgehogs as well, should be very pleased to hear about. So that's also partly fulfilling a sort of aspiration of the Colchester Declaration, and we'll be working up plans on those over coming weeks and months. Then on the water environment grant, the catchment advisors, sadly the contract ends at the end of this month for one of the catchment advisors, so we will be losing one, but the other one was, well, the Winehouse Foundation will still be operating in the area, so we will be coordinating with them on ongoing farm management and farm advice. And the funding we had from the Environment Agency for natural flood management and riparian tree work, we're just negotiating with them over the possible continuation of that project and looking at other opportunities to continue that work in both on the Gloucestershire side and on the Monmouthshire side, because we feel all the pilot work we've done has been very successful. And then moving on to the Wye Valley Villages transport and travel plans. And it's an exciting piece of work that's going on currently on the Monmouthshire side, and Arup have been contracted to do a comprehensive assessment of travel and transport across the main villages in the Monmouthshire part of the valley, and they've just concluded their sort of phase one, first stage of the work, and will be reporting back in the next few weeks with proposals and consulting on those and the options going forward, and then putting that into some or identifying some funding strategies to take that forward, which will then be used to base capital and funding bids after that. So the cycling will most definitely fit into that framework as well. So we'll keep members posted on that. So by the next JAC, we should have had the final report. So I think we'll be able to present that to members. And then moving on, Lower Wye Valley green infrastructure work. Nikki Moore and my team has been doing a huge amount of work on evaluating and drawing up costings and specifications for works on around Landogo and Cledden Falls on the Wordsworth Walk leaflet, surveying the riverbank from the Monmouthshire Showground up to Duke of Beaufort Bridge, where there's again some more bank work that needs bank stabilisation work needed, and then looking at the unclassified county highway or county road of Chapel Hill Lane at Tinton, and working out some natural flood management installations on that. So all of that will be sort of moving forward in the next few weeks or months. So again, we'll keep you informed. And yes, finally, the office refurbishment is going ahead. We've now actually vacated the AONB office at Hadnot Road, and the decarbonisation and refurbishment work will be starting on that. So we'll look forward to showing you around our new offices, maybe not in July, but at some stage in the summer or as part of the next JAC tour, hopefully. And finally, the undergrounding, we did a push to promote that over the winter, and Nick Critchley, the AONB development officer, was slightly inundated by proposals from up and down the AONB, and he's working through those now. And again, we'll come back to you with those proposals as they go forward. So thank you for any questions on any of those. Quite happy to answer now or another time.
Thank you, Andrew. Chris, you wanted to come in?
Yes, thank you, Anne.
Chris McFarlane. Thank you.
It was really to do with the Wye Valley Villages Transport Plan update. As you may, as I'm sure you know, Andrew, that in the Forest of Dean, we're looking at our local plan, and we're particularly keen to redevelop our transport policies and our transport networks to reduce carbon footprints, transport being one of the major contributors to global warming. And it would seem helpful if we could also participate or be included in the village's transport plans, because obviously we do share the Wye Valley Road, as it were, the A466, and it would be an opportunity missed if this was only relevant to the Welsh side and couldn't link up some of the villages in the English side. Again, it seems as though a national border is preventing a good idea from succeeding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good comments, Chris. Can I bring in Rita before I ask Andrew to come back in? Thank you, Rita. Welcome.
Just very briefly, as one of the community councils involved in that plan, I would heartily endorse the comments that have been made across the border, and I'm quite sure, Andrew, that and Anne, because you're part of it too, that together we could perhaps encourage that integration at least at the information level and information sharing, which I think would actually be very productive, rather than wait until the whole consultation is over and then consider the idea of joining partners across the border. As someone said already, you know, what goes on has no borders now in life, climate change, everything else that's going on. So if we've got that kind of encouragement, let's go for it. Thank you.
Could I come in, please?
Ashley, yes.
Okay. I'm a bit puzzled by this because there have been reviews after reviews of the Wye Valley route, if you like, from Chepstow to Monmouth. I mean, I remember many years ago going to school in Monmouth from Llandough, which is where I live. And the bus has always been cross-border. You can't go by bus from Chepstow to Monmouth without crossing into Gloucestershire and back into Monmouthshire again. So I can't see that is. I just wondered what improvement is the people want to make, or is it simply the service that's provided, the quality of the service? What is proposed exactly, or what are they discussing?
If I can come in there, I mean, I think Ashley, the easiest thing is, in the first instance, for me to share what the proposals are so far, or what they've been looking at. And there's a couple of presentations and things that we've been party to. Yeah. I mean, this initiative really started out of some concern in some villages over the speed of traffic going through the village, and Llandough, of course, being one of those, and A466, and I think Devorden and Lanishn as well. And it's sort of spiraled out of a couple of villages wanting a couple of speed restriction initiatives to saying, well, let's look at this more holistically, more strategically. Yes, we can slow, or we're going to try and slow the vehicles down, but aren't there broader issues, then relates to the visitor experience and how the visitors get around as well as the locals, and aside from all the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic, you know, what's the relationship with public transport and cycling, and how people get around the area. So we started off looking at a couple of very sort of pertinent but specific issues, and ended up, and it is with Welsh Government funding. So that's where inevitably the cross-border dynamic, you know, can become a hindrance as opposed to help. But looking at it as strategically as possible, and certainly I furnished the consultants with a stack of previous studies that you know, I've got going back 15-20 years on travel and transport studies in the Wye Valley, and of course also emphasising the cross-border linkage, and not least the Wireworks Bridge and Redbrook Bridge, and of course, yes, they're fully aware the A466 and the 69 bus weave their way in and out of England and Wales on the way up and down the valleys. So we've certainly tried to make them as aware of possible of the broader implications, albeit having to, you know, being funded on the Welsh side and therefore needing to deliver as such on the Welsh side. But certainly the consultants that are fully aware of the, you know, the nature of the Wye Valley and the wider implications of all the issues.
Yes. The thing about the actual route is that only a small part of it is actually in Gloucestershire, and that's between Bigswell Bridge and Redbrook, which doesn't have a village on it until it gets to Redbrook, and the access on and off it is there are no roads on and off between those 2 points. But once it gets to Redbrook, at the far end of Redbrook, the border crosses the river in any case. So part of Redbrook, as you get to the far end of Redbrook, going up towards Monmouth, that's in Monmouthshire. Wales isn't across the river; it's actually on what might be termed the English side.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Ashley.
The implications in terms of the Wye Valley route up is almost entirely Welsh, except at Redbrook, and that's, you know, that's no problem, so to speak.
Thank you.
So,
thank you, Ashley.
That's what puzzled me, you see.
Okay.
It seems to be a non-problem in many ways, but that's just a comment I wanted to make in any case.
Thank you for that, Ashley. That's an interesting comment. Thank you very much. Thank you. If there are no other comments regarding that item, we'll move on to the item number 15, which is the date of the next meeting. And Andrew, you've got that we might meet in the Forest of Dean District Council offices. Hooray, hooray, that would be great.
Yes, well, I thought I'd better book the room space just in case. So the room is booked even if we're not allowed to use it.
That's good. I like it. Thank you. Thank you. One of the things I wanted to say is that it's really, really good to have members from Gloucestershire and Herefordshire and the Forest of Dean here this afternoon. It's really good for us all to get together. And I think this is probably the only forum when we all talk about different things that interest us without a border, really, Rita. I think that we would all talk as if we're all one. Thank you very much. And I'm going to say Bryn Hunda. And good afternoon, everybody, because it's St. David's Day today. Sorry, in England, you have to, it's St. David's Day. So thank you very much. And we'll speak soon and look forward to seeing you all, hopefully, in the Forest of Dean on the 6th of July. Thank you for attending this afternoon. Yes, thank you, Rita. And I have one too. It's a bit floppy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Andrew.